Hi, hi, listen, I'm really sorry I'm starting late today. I had major technical difficulties with my computer this morning. When I first tried to launch the webinar, no sound and no picture came up. And then I, uh, um, so I had to shut down my computer, restart my computer to get the camera to work. And then there was problems with the microphone and headset. So hopefully everybody can hear me now and we're on the air. So thanks to all of you joining me this morning. It was particularly frustrating because I have a lot of very good things to talk about this morning, and I just so it's really agitating getting started. So hi everyone, thanks for your message on the chat. Last week I was at the home office of Nature Sunshine. The week before that, I was at the Nature Sunshine Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I had I have to say, I've never been more excited to go to a convention, because for almost a year now, I've been working behind the scenes with Nature Sunshine to look over their entire product line. Not that it's something I hadn't done with them before, but this time we actually have made progress in moving forward in developing the herbal product line and trying to work to make it more understandable, bring it up to date, effective. And our first project that came out of that was an herbal formula that I proposed as part of this work called Cinnamon Balance. And we have a committee of people who've been working on this that gave input that along with the research and development department to finalize the formula. But what I wanted to do was a lot of the old Nature Sunshine blood sugar balancing formulas were based on Golden Seal. And likely the reason why Golden Seal has a mild blood sugar lowering effect is because it contains berberine and it adjusts gut bacteria. But it's not well researched for that purpose. It's an endangered herb, and I wanted to move away from those Golden Seal based formulas into a new formula, and so we created the Cinnamon Balance. And I got my sample about 2 weeks before the convention, because there was a big mix-up where other people had gotten it several weeks earlier and started trying it. And the initial reports on it works very, very well. So I'm going to talk about Cinnamon Balance first, because I think it's a great blood sugar formula. I've been taking it myself because while my blood sugar isn't like super high, the last couple of times I've tested it was the one time it was really close to 100, the other it was a little bit below 100 in the 90s, but I want to get it down into the 70s where it's really supposed to be, which helps you lose weight. And when I started taking the formula, I noticed that it really did help curb my craving for sugar and carbohydrates as I've been taking it. The cinnamon is very well researched as being able to help blood sugar in anywhere from 1 to 6 gram a day doses. So just as an example, a capsule typically contains about 500 milligrams, and so 2 capsules is close to a gram. So we designed this formula so that if you took 2 capsules, you'd be getting 1,000 milligrams of cinnamon, which makes it the chief ingredient in the formula. But one of the things about cinnamon is, by itself, cinnamon is very astringent. And as I talked about at my workshop at the convention, I had seen this program. I used to watch Mythbusters. I really like Mythbusters, and they talked about not being able to swallow a spoonful of cinnamon. And I told this to my stepsons, and they didn't believe me. They said, "Oh, we can do that." And the oldest one actually took a teaspoon of cinnamon, shoved it in his mouth, and wound up over the sink spitting. The other one, seeing the inability of the older brother to swallow that big of an amount, tried to swallow a smaller amount and still couldn't swallow it, because cinnamon is a very, very strong astringent. It actually has styptic properties. It's a strong enough astringent that it actually can stop bleeding and has been helpful for dysmenorrhea and other bleeding problems. And that's actually useful because astringents do help to tone up the gut, to relieve leaky gut. So that's a decent property, but the downside is astringents dry up your saliva. They are very drying to your mucous membranes, especially when used over a long period of time. So what we did is we formulated this with some other blood sugar lowering herbs that are more sweet and cooling and moistening in nature, and the major one of those is Nepal, which is the leaves of the prickly pear cactus, and any of you who've ever seen this is actually used as a food in the southwestern United States and in Mexico. You take the prickly pear cactus leaves and you get all the needles off of them, and then you cut them open and you eat the fleshy part inside, which is very mucilaginous, much like the inside of an aloe vera leaf, and can be used to help soothe burns and other skin irritations. Now, some years ago, I was out doing a little nature walk, and I had never actually split one of these open. And so I actually was very careful not to get any of the big needles, and I cut through the middle with my knife. But what I wasn't careful of is there are also these little tiny needles on the leaves that are very, very small, and my knife went through one of those little pouches, and it drug some of those needles into the middle. So when I cut out some of the flesh to put it in my mouth, I got some of those little needles in my tongue. Not a pleasant experience at all. Later, I learned that the way that you do this is you get the leaf and put it on a rock, and you use another rock to basically knock all the needles off, so that all the little ones are gone and you don't have any problem with this. But the nopal is very mucilaginous and soothing, and it also has a long history of, some pretty good research in terms of its ability to lower blood sugar. It has an extremely low glycemic index, 5. Xylitol also has a 5 on the glycemic index, which means it does not promote insulin secretion. And the interesting thing about the mucilage inside of the nopal, it is actually also antimicrobial, as is cinnamon. And we now understand something really interesting about blood sugar. And that is that one of the reasons why we crave sugar and carbohydrates is because we get the wrong kind of bacteria growing in our intestinal tract. You have bacteria, for example, that grow in the biofilm on your teeth. And if you're eating a lot of sugary, starchy foods, you'll get the bacteria growing in the biofilm on your teeth that cause gingivitis and tooth decay. However, indigenous peoples didn't have that problem. They didn't have to go to the dentist and have the dentist clean their teeth and remove all that plaque and whatnot. As Weston Price found in the 30s, when he round around the world, indigenous people had plaque on their teeth, and they had almost no cavities, no gingivitis, no other problems. So what it is, it's the kind of bacteria that are growing in the biofilm. And I read a study where they took some people and they took them off of all of the simple carbohydrates, the white flour, the white sugar, had them eat lots of fresh vegetables and some fruits and some animal proteins. And in 30 days, the bacteria growing on in the biofilm, that's the plaque on your teeth, completely changed to bacteria that do not cause tooth decay and do not cause gingivitis. Well, the same thing happens in your gut. You're eating a diet high in, heavily starchy and sugary foods. You get bacteria that favor that growing in your intestinal tract, and those bacteria also cause your intestinal cells to move apart and create something called leaky gut, and get this wrong kind of bacteria growing in your gut. There is also a mechanism where these gut bacteria send chemical messages that chemicals get absorbed into your bloodstream and go to your brain and tell you eat more sugar, because that's what feeds them. And so they're basically hijacking your brain and making you crave sugar. So most people try to give up sugar. In this program, we've talked about this before, go through a lot of withdrawal, and they immediately start craving a lot of starchy foods. And this is because the bacteria in your gut are wanting those sugars to feed on. And now when you shift and you successfully make the shift to eating the more complex carbohydrates, the vegetables, some fresh fruits, and then of course the sources of protein, the bacteria in your gut also shift to a healthier intestinal biome, which is more resistant to disease and less prone to leaky gut, which causes a whole bunch of other problems. So one of the interesting things about cinnamon is cinnamon has been shown to break down biofilms of bad bacteria. And cinnamon, I have a xylitol mouthwash with cinnamon in it that I use for my teeth. So cinnamon is also an antimicrobial agent. Cinnamon oil is very antiseptic, and there are some other compounds in cinnamon that are very antiseptic. So cinnamon is, like golden seal and berberine, is helping to knock down bad bacteria in the gut, but also helping to break down the bad biofilm so that you are getting the right kind of bacteria growing in your gut. And that shift in bacteria in your gut is part of the reason why you're able to get off sugar and start lowering your sweet intake. Well, nopal also has an effect to help get rid of harmful bacteria. You can put a piece of cut up nopal leaf in the bottom of a container of contaminated water, and apparently what happens is it sucks up all of the disease organisms and helps to actually purify the water and make it drinkable. The other mucilaginous herb that we chose to help balance the cinnamon was fenugreek, which has also been shown to lower blood sugar in much higher amounts than cinnamon, but because it also has an anti-glycemic effect, it makes a good balancing herb that also is nourishing and moistening. Anyway, the other ingredients are astragalus, which is also a moistening, nourishing adaptogen tonic. And there's a little bit of dandelion and burdock in there, which are sources of inulin, act as diuretics and alteratives, and have been used in a lot of traditional blood sugar lowering formulas because of their general effect on the liver and so forth. Plus, they contain inulin, which feeds friendly bacteria. The net effect is I was really pleased when I opened the capsule of this, my first sample of this product, and found that you can swallow it. In other words, if you dump 2 capsules of cinnamon in your mouth, it would be very, very hard to swallow. If you dump 2 capsules of this in your mouth, it doesn't dry out your saliva to the point that you can't swallow it, which means that you've effectively balanced the cinnamon with some moistening herbs to make it more suitable for long-term use. And I think it's a fantastic formula. One of the people that was on the committee who got their sample had been taking quite a bit of a formula called Pro Pancreas and a whole bunch of other products to try to keep their blood sugar down. And they basically dropped all of that to try this product out. And they were taking just 2 capsules of cinnamon balance in the morning and 2 in the evening. And it actually controlled their blood sugar better than all the stuff they were taking before. So that is, to me, really exciting news. But the more interesting thing to me, I mean, it was great that I got to introduce a formula I helped to work on, and hoping in the future I'll be able to tell you about more formulas that we're working on when they're ready to come out, and which ones we're working on, because we are doing this. There's a whole lot more behind this that's going to come out. But I was extremely excited about this new Rejuvenaid. I had also gotten a sample of Rejuvenaid, which actually at that point had no name. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't even know what they were going to call it when they launched at the convention, but I got a sample box beforehand. And I've known that I've been developing some circulatory issues. And I know because, like, I'll go out and walk with my wife and my legs get really sore and feel very heavy. And I know this is a lack of circulation. In iridology, there's a thing called the lipemic diathesis, which is a sign of poor circulation, potential to develop atherosclerosis. And for me, I've got a lipemic diathesis, and it's actually in the lower part of my eye, which means that my circulation in the lower part of my body has been starting to become impaired. And I felt that because of the soreness in my legs and just generally not feeling, I don't know, I could just tell that I was having problems with that. And so when I got this particular formula, it is a nitric oxide enhancing formula. And what they did is they took L-arginine, which I had tried taking a product called Cardio Assurance with L-arginine. It had a little effect, but not as much as I'd hoped. But they took the L-arginine and combined it with red beet and citrulline and some other ingredients so that it works on two different pathways for creating nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is released by the 1 cell thick endothelial lining in your arteries. So your arteries are lined with a layer of cells, just 1 cell thick, and that endothelial lining is largely responsible for the health of your cardiovascular system. That gets damaged by environmental pollutants and infections and so forth, and that's actually what causes hardening of the arteries, is the damage to the endothelial lining and the subsequent inflammation to the tissues that then the body patches over with the cholesterol and minerals and so forth to create the stuff that causes hardening of the arteries. Well, that 1 cell thick endothelial lining releases a chemical messenger called nitric oxide, which then dilates the arteries and helps the blood flow. And when I started taking this, number one, I noticed that the more I took it, the more I craved it. It's like my body really wanted it. But I had to ration it because I only had the 1 sample box, and I was trying to make it last until I got for convention. I ran out just a few days before convention, and I actually noticed a difference in how that I didn't feel quite as good, and my circulation wasn't quite as good. But I've started taking again, and I decided to up it to the 2 packs a day. And I can tell you this: number one, when I'm taking this, I can exercise for a lot longer time, and I don't get the sore legs. Number two, I have more energy. My brain is actually clearer too, and I just feel really good. And I'm really excited about this product because they have nitric oxide test strips that you can buy. So you can actually test your nitric oxide level, then take some Rejuvenaid, and a half hour, 45 minutes later, check your nitric oxide level again and actually demonstrate that this dramatically increases the levels of nitric oxide in your blood, which means you have a provable product. Now that's exciting because there's a lot of there's so many different products in the market right now of this or that, but to be able to actually demonstrate that kind of dramatic change in nitric oxide levels from just a product within like 30 to 45 minutes, and actually start to feel that within 35 to 45 minutes. And everyone that they tested this product on, everyone, it helped lower their blood pressure if it was high. It doesn't lower your blood pressure if your blood pressure is normal, but if it's high, it helps lower your blood pressure, at least with everybody that they tested. That's pretty exciting because you have 90% of all cases of hypertension out there are of unknown origin, according to the medical doctors. They don't know why people have high blood pressure, and so all they can do is use these various drugs to try to force the blood pressure to get lower. But the fact is that the drugs, in my experience, generally don't work that well. I mean, they kind of will hold it down, but it's like it's not really solving the problem. And this seems to really be dramatically shifting the endothelial lining to actually improve the circulation through the whole body. And the other thing, besides the fact that it's provable in testing, when you have something that most people who take it actually notice a difference within a few days, that's great because that helps them want to keep taking it. I mean, a lot of people, I do a lot of, most of the consults I do now are with people who are already in the business and whatever, and they're wanting help with selecting products. I mean, I don't get to sell a lot of products because most of the clients I take, they buy the product, you know, from Nature Sunshine or other companies for themselves. But a lot of times they'll send me the list of the products they're taking, and I'll say, well, why are you taking this one? And they go, well, because I read it was good for you. I said, have you noticed a difference in taking it? They go, no. And I go, then that was, you started taking it 3 months ago and you haven't noticed any change. Why are you still taking it? Because in my book, if I don't notice a difference with products, and I'm a little more in tune with my body than most people, so I can typically tell if something's making a difference for me within a couple of days, which is one of the reasons why I liked Cinnamon Balance, is because I could tell it made a difference within a couple of days. But Rejuvenaid made an even bigger difference in a couple of days. And if people can notice a difference, they're more likely to stick with a program and stick with what you're doing. So that's pretty exciting. I mean, that's a real amazing breakthrough product. Jay Van Den Havel and I taught a class prior to the Nature Sunshine Convention on the issue of heavy metal toxicity. And that was reinforced by a Dr. Pompey who spoke the first night at convention. And I learned two things about heavy metals from Dr. Pompey's speech that I did not know. I knew a lot about heavy metals. I knew that heavy metals were causing a lot of neurological problems, especially in our younger generation, with all of the autism and all of the, you know, autism spectrum disorders and the learning disabilities and the hyperactivity and all that stuff, as well as causing a lot of immune problems, including, I think, as a major cause of autoimmune disorders is heavy metals, as well as leaky gut. But two things I did not understand about heavy metals that I learned from this. One is that heavy metals are passed from mother to child in the womb. That the body, if it can't get rid of them, and most people don't have a good enough nutrition, the body can detoxify heavy metals, but it takes nutrients to detoxify heavy metals. So if you don't have adequate nutrition, the body will store the heavy metals. It will store the lead in your bones. It will store the mercury in your fat. In fact, a lot of heavy metals get stored in fat, which is one of the reasons why you can't lose weight sometimes, that your weight won't budge. And the reason it won't budge is because your body won't let go of the heavy metals. They're stored in the fat. But when a woman is pregnant, her body is taking the body's own nutritional reserves, minerals from the bone and extra nutrients and calories, in order to try to sustain the life in the womb, which means the heavy metals actually get released from the tissues and move into the infant. So in other words, the lead that we were exposed to, because from leaded gasoline way back when, the mercury amalgam from the fillings that we were exposed to that we've had removed, even if we have gotten rid of that, we may not have got it out of our tissues. And if a woman is pregnant, if she's had that in her system, which gets in there from all these different sources in our society, that will get passed on to the infant. And our children are becoming increasingly toxic with heavy metals from being absorbed with this. And we need to get rid of them. And they may be a contributing factor in the hypertension. Now, so the fact that the heavy metals get passed from mother to child, that's the first thing I learned that I think was really interesting, because I was thinking that the kid had to be exposed to heavy metals themselves, such as from a vaccine or whatever, in order to do the damage. But let's suppose that they've already got a fairly heavy dose of heavy metals because the mom had heavy metals in her system, and then they go get some more vaccines, and then you reach a tipping point. You reach a point when you get high enough levels of heavy metals or toxins in the body that it trips and damages the nervous system because it's more than the body can deal with. So anything that will help get rid of heavy metals is a really, really big deal. And I also knew, and I talked about this in the workshop I did with Jay beforehand, there was a dry cleaner here in town that I've talked to, and his wife came down with MS, and he did a bunch of research, and he figured out that the solvents that were being used in the dry cleaning caused heavy metals to become fat soluble so that they would easily penetrate cell membranes. See, traditionally, there's always been heavy metals in the environment, but traditionally, we don't absorb very much of it, because if you have a healthy gut and you don't have leaky gut, which unfortunately now more than half the population does. But if you don't have leaky gut and you have a healthy intestinal tract, you don't absorb this stuff. You don't absorb lead. You don't absorb mercury. You don't absorb this stuff. And little children are more susceptible to it than adults, but it's difficult to absorb. And the body, what little is absorbed, the body is totally prepared to be able to excrete. But when you take a solvent like the dry cleaning solution, and that goes with heavy metals, the heavy metals become very absorbable and get pulled into the body and the tissues very easily. And because solvents are designed to dissolve fats, okay, that's one of the reasons why these spot stain removers that remove, certain kinds of stains have things that basically dissolve fat in them, a petrochemical solvent. And so he figured out that his wife had gotten mercury poisoning because the solvents caused her to absorb mercury. So he found that you could kick it out of the cells with sodium ascorbate, sodium vitamin C, which he said is quite easy to make if you mix vitamin C with baking soda. And that goes into the cell and helps the cell kick out heavy metals. And he actually did this to help cure his wife. He gave me some research on this, and he said he got all this research and he collected it, and then he says the sources all disappeared. In other words, he couldn't go back and find the studies that he had downloaded because they'd been taken off the web. So I've been very aware of this, and one of the reasons why I consider like vaccine, the mercury containing vaccines, and actually most vaccines now contain aluminum, which again is difficult to absorb, but once you put it with a solvent, which all vaccines contain solvents, are very easily absorbed. But vaccines aren't the biggest source of this. It's all around us in the environment. What also helps absorb heavy metals, and that's what Dr. Pompey talked about, is glycophosphates. Glycophosphates are basically the weed killers the Roundup developed, Monsanto Corporation. And you put glycophosphates, which are being used on practically all the corn, the wheat. I learned this convention from another person saying that up in where they live, where there are fields of potatoes, they now, when the potatoes are ready to be harvested, she sees planes spraying the glycophosphates on the potato fields to kill all the tops of the potatoes before they go dig them up. Which means you're getting glycophosphates in potatoes, you're getting glycophosphates from corn, you're getting glycophosphates from wheat, you're getting glycophosphates from soy, all of which are very, very prevalent in our diets. And glycophosphates kill friendly bacteria, but from what I gathered, the research shows they also increase the absorption of heavy metals. And as I said, okay, I have been trying to get rid of my belly fat for quite some time, and I'll get to a certain point, and I can't seem to budge it any further. Well, I've got a metal plate in my wrist. I've got a metal rod in my leg. I had a whole bunch of amalgam fillings, which I have had taken out of me and everything. But I started to realize that probably the reason why I can't budge my weight beyond a certain point is because my body needs to get rid of the heavy metals. And it won't, if it can't get rid of the heavy metals, the weight isn't going to budge. Well, I noticed when I was taking Cinnamon Balance and Rejuvenaid, my weight was starting to budge. In other words, I was starting to tighten up, lose fat, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. Well, at the conference okay, Nature Sunshine now has their own research center, Hughes Research Center, which I think is phenomenal. I don't think there's any other herb company that has their own independent research center where they're researching ingredients to find out what actually works, and then they're testing them in actual clinical studies. And they did a clinical study with what we're now calling Purify 2.0, where they took another product which they had created earlier that I really, really liked, which they called Purify, and now they're calling UltraBiome DTX. They're doing that because they wanted to differentiate. This is not just a fiber supplement. UltraBiome DTX, the principal ingredients in it are inulin, L-glutamine, which helps to heal leaky gut, and psyllium, as well as chlorophyll and some other ingredients that all help to heal leaky gut. So they took people with the new Rejuvenaid product, the UltraBiome DTX, the formerly Purify, a probiotic called Bacillus coagulans, which Jay has told me about. Bacillus coagulans does not colonize your gut. It's a common probiotic in dirt. So if you were getting exposed to a healthy amount of dirt, you'd be getting this, and it goes in your system, and it's there for a few days, and it's kicked out. But what it does is it shifts the microbiome. In other words, it helps to shift the microbiome from the harmful bacteria to the good bacteria. And one of the problems is we're not getting exposed to enough dirt because we made everything so freaking clean and sterile with our germ phobia, which is what I'm talking about in this month's Sunshine Sharing and Sunshine Sharing Hour, is the fact that as we have, fought the war of germs and infectious diseases has declined, we have had a corresponding increase in allergies and autoimmune disorders. So here's the infectious diseases going down like that, and allergies, asthma, autoimmune disorders have gone up at the same rate the other ones have gone down. And there's some reasons for this, because a lot of the things we're doing to kill bacteria and sterilize everything are actually harming the microbiome in our gut and making us more susceptible to immune dysregulatory disorders. So when they also had them take a protein powder, a meal replacement protein powder, which one they wanted. Now here's the great thing: they documented that heavy metal excretion dramatically increased on this program. Now that's a major breakthrough, major breakthrough, because when you have demonstrated, because the cilantro thing, which cilantro has been this big thing on heavy metals, was first done with a clinical observation of people eating cilantro in soup, but it hasn't been researched much beyond that. So there's a lot of controversy about this, but they demonstrated that this program was reducing zonulin levels in the gut, which means it was closing the tight gap junctions in the intestinal tract and causing a reduction of inflammation in the gut. And this was also tested with another chemical, and that it was causing heavy metal secretion. The people were losing weight, their blood pressure was going down, and they were feeling better. They subjectively felt better, less fatigue, better sleep, so on and so forth. And that's exciting news, because that's a very, very basic thing that people face. So that helped me explain why my weight was starting to budge. So I'm right now I had kind of off and on been taking the Purify, the UltraBiome DTX. Now I'm going to try and take it every day, along with Rejuvenaid every day, at least twice a day. And I'm taking the Cinnamon Balance, and not only do I have greater mental clarity, not only do I crave less carbohydrate and sweet, but my energy is better, my mental focus is better. I'm noticing a major, major difference. And I think this is an awesome, awesome, awesome opportunity to go out and have some stuff that has been clinically demonstrated to improve many, many different markers in health, and be able to educate people about this, because this is very fundamental stuff. I think that, and I'm anxious to see now if by upping secretion of heavy metals from my system doing heavy metal detoxification, if I can budge that last bit of fat and get myself back to where I'm skinny again. I would really, really like to be skinny again. You know, because like I said, I don't eat that unhealthy, okay? And I've been exercising more, but, you know, again, my weight doesn't seem to want to budge along a certain point, and that really helped me understand why, because I'm definitely getting exposed to metals regularly just from what's the metal that's inside of my body. Another thing I really like about this is this stuff actually is easy to take because it's not a bunch of capsules to swallow. I personally think Rejuvenaid tastes pretty good. It has a little bit of a, you know, a beet flavor, but it's not really a strong beet flavor. And if that bothers you, try adding a little bit of something else that that you like in terms of a powder to flavor it a little bit more. Like I buy these little, because I have a hard time getting my I've had a hard time getting my wife to drink enough water. I bought these little containers from the health food store of no calorie flavored mineral electrolytes, like cherry flavor and stuff like that, that she'll put into the water, and that'll get her to drink the water. And so I put a little of that in, or a little bit of Solstick 24 or something that I think tastes pretty good. And I've been trying a lot of different stick packs from actually a couple other companies besides Nature Sunshine. And as far as I can tell, for me anyway, Rejuvenaid is one that I really, really crave and that my body seems to really, really like. But if you add a little something to flavor it, it tastes really good, and you could give it to kids. I really believe quite strongly that this program would be 100% safe for children. And so I'm anxious to try, these are just some things I'm putting out there, anxious to try it with some kids who maybe are having some learning or attention problems or so forth, because you could use maybe a quarter or a third of the packet and put a little water, maybe flavor it with a little juice, whatever. Well, and then you can, you could actually give it to kids. And also the cinnamon balance to me tastes good enough that you could probably take cinnamon balance also with kids, like I'm talking about kids who are 4 or 5 or whatever, who can't swallow capsules, and sprinkle a little bit on their cereal or their toast or whatever. And if they like the flavor of cinnamon, they would like this. Someone just asked a question, what if Rejuvenaid makes you feel tired? Well, here's the thing. There's no product that works for everybody. So I always suggest that you, number one, above anything else, you pay attention to how something makes you feel. If there's a product, I don't care how great people say it is, and you take it and it doesn't help you feel better, then I wouldn't take it. Okay? It's not something that you need. I mean, you could get the test kit, test your nitric oxide levels. If your nitric oxide levels are low, you might want to try taking a smaller amount. It's possible. It's possible, you know, if that some things like this, some people, it might detoxify them too quickly, and that would cause them not to feel good. But if you started with a smaller amount and worked up, that might be helpful, you know. I can't say whether anything would work for any particular person, but what I can say is, based on their clinical study, I think that the combination of UltraBiome DTX, Purify, and Bacillus coagulans, along with making sure that a person's getting adequate protein, because that was part of what they did. They were, you know, they were giving them a total lifestyle package, you know. So I mean, we always want to teach people to eat healthy. We always want to teach people to try to exercise and get enough sleep and do all the basic things. But I would definitely think this would be worth a try. There is nothing in Rejuvenaid or UltraBiome DTX which I would consider to be the kind of thing that has cautions where taking too much would be, like really harmful. I don't see anything in it that to me, just this is my personal opinion. I just want to make sure this is my personal opinion, that kids maybe 3 years old or older couldn't safely take some. I would just use a smaller dose, and I would definitely just want to try it, because I'm very, very sure that most of these kids who are having neurological disorders probably have heavy metals in their system. I would combine that, though, with another thing that's not in that program, which is essential fatty acids. I would make sure that you're getting omega-3s and DHA and fat-soluble vitamins in there to protect the brain, because the brain is mostly fat and mostly DHA and omega-3s. So you really need to make sure that they're getting good fats, healthy fats, to help ensure proper nervous system development. So every case needs this one thing that is important to understand. Every case has to be evaluated individually, because we're all a little bit different. But the basic way to tell if this is good if something's good for you is to take it for a couple of days and notice how you feel. And if you do start to feel better, then it's probably working. If you don't feel better, or you have a negative reaction, what I tell people do is stop taking it for 2 or 3 days. If the reaction clears, then it's very possible it was a reaction to the product. If it doesn't clear, it was not a reaction to the product. It's something else going on that happened to start at the same time you started taking the product. But a lot of times it'll clear up. And then I tell people, now start with a smaller dose. Take a quarter of what you started with and see if you can tolerate it. If you still have a bad reaction to it, then don't take it. That's generally the way I approach things. There's no way intellectually you can anticipate, whether something is, going to be perfect for you or not. You can use intuitive things like muscle response testing or prayer or whatever, but I think that you just have to, also really, really pay attention to your body and understand that sometimes even something that's good for you can kind of overwhelm your system if your system is toxic and it's stirring up too many toxins in your system or something. And so you stop, you clear out the body, try it again for a few days. Someone says, I have the same problem with just about everything I try. I feel good for a few days and then worse than I did before. That actually, like I said, typically if you feel better for a few days and then you start to feel worse, that actually is what constitutes a healing crisis, meaning that your body is trying to detoxify and you don't feel good because of the detoxification process. A lot of people will try to say, well, just push through. Well, what I would do is make sure that your eliminative channels are open, you're drinking plenty of water, and slow down, okay? Slow down. Someone says, any chance I could give the DTX to a small dog? Probably. I don't think there's anything in there that I think would be bad for a dog. I don't know of a good way to test for heavy metals at home. I would assume, and I'm just saying this from listening to Dr. Pompey, that just about all of us have too high of a dose of heavy metals. As for the pre-convention class on heavy metals, that class is going to be eventually put on the web with Jay, so that will be really good. Hi, Gretchen. Hi, Terry. Hi, Denise. Hi, Sherry. Hi, everybody. Again, I apologize for getting started late. As I said, I had technical difficulties. I couldn't get a camera to work, and I couldn't get my headset to work. Now we're on, but how can we determine how it's going if the child cannot relay back? Okay, you determine that by watching the child. what let me tell you more than, okay, I don't know how to teach this. I wish I could teach this. I try to teach it, but it's very difficult to teach because it requires you to unlearn what you learned in school. All right? In public education, you are taught to override your own observation and judgment and just accept what you were told. And if you questioned the authority of the teacher, you were punished. You were given a bad grade, you were marked down, blah, 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 blah. So we've all learned through public education to be afraid of our own intuition, afraid of our own ability to observe, and taught to override that in favor of what we're told. And that's not just public education. There's a lot of institutions in society that are doing the same thing to us. You have to learn to start observing. Don't rely so much on your intellect as rely on your senses. Watch, look. And most people don't know how to look. They don't know how to see because they're so caught up in the verbal world that everything they're looking at, there is a constant monkey chatter of interpretation going on in their brain. Now, I just posted a little, shared a little video I saw this morning on YouTube on my Facebook page about a guy who worked for a rich man, and every time he would greet him and say hi, and the guy wouldn't talk to him, and he thought the guy was very cold and very stern. But he was having a hard time making ends meet with his family, and he noticed that when the guy threw a party, there was a lot of food that was thrown away. So he started digging in the trash to get some of the food that had been thrown away to help feed his family. And he noticed that one day his boss saw him doing this. The boss didn't say a word, but the next day there was a bag of groceries, a fresh bag of groceries out by the trash. And he picked it up, and every day there was a bag of groceries by the trash. And he was taking this home, it was helping him feed his family, helped him make ends meet, and he was doing fine. Then his boss died, and it stopped happening. So he was starting to struggle again. So he finally decided to go to his, the wife and say, "Could I have a raise?" And she says, "Well, what do you need a raise for?" And he finally explained, well, they was having trouble making ends meet. And she says, "Well, why didn't you say anything about this before?" And then he says, "Well, there was this bag of groceries, and I was getting that, and I was doing fine with that." And she started to cry. And he says, "Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked for a raise." And she says, no. She says, "You're the 7th person who's come to me and told me my husband left them groceries." And from that day forward, her son started bringing him a bag of groceries every day. And he kept saying, "Thank you." And the son kept not hearing him. And finally he said in a really loud voice, "Thank you." And the son said, "Oh, you're welcome." He says, "You'll have to forgive me. I'm hard of hearing like my father." So all this time he was thinking the guy was just being cold and everything, and the guy just wasn't hearing him. But he realized that this boss that he thought was so insensitive and stern was actually very kind-hearted and was trying to help him and help other people too. And what I'm telling you this story for is because, okay, we develop a filter on our perception, and that filter on our perception causes us that instead of seeing what is in front of us, instead of being able to observe the data, observe how we feel, observe what's going on, and make adjustments accordingly with our own inner understanding and our own perception, we are sitting there interpreting it in a certain way, and we can't see it any different from that. You have to learn to shut all that down, and you have to learn to pay attention and trust yourself. And that is a hard thing to do. But one of the reasons why I think I've been successful in what I do is because I do that. When I'm sitting and I have to honestly, I also pray a lot, and I've always done this since the beginning. Every time someone's come to me, I'm always praying and saying, "God, show me how to help this person." And I think when we're praying, wishing to be of help and service to other people, God always answers our prayers. But I would sit there and I would listen. And instead of sitting there and analyzing the person, blah, 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 I'm trying to figure out what's wrong. I'm just trying to focus and listen and look at the person and feel the person and be with the person and get into it. And what'll happen is suddenly, I'll see something. And this little light bulb goes on in my brain. I follow that line of reasoning, or this herb comes to mind, or this product comes to mind, or whatever, and I recommend it. And honestly, a lot of the people I know who are really successful in this do that, even though they won't tell you that they're doing that. And I think that if you really want to be of help to people, stop trying to analyze everything with your brain. I mean, at some point, I realized that I actually got really, really good results before I knew even a 20th of what I know now. And that in some ways, all the stuff I'd learned was getting in the way of me helping people, because I needed to just stop and approach each person like I know nothing. And yeah, I gather information and everything, because I believe all the information that we learn gets stored in our brain. It's there. And then I believe God can bring it back into our awareness and pop it back into our head whenever it's needed. So I'm sitting in front of someone and boom, something I heard in a lecture maybe 10 years ago about something pops into my head, and I know that that's the answer. So I'm just saying, I think that you need to learn to observe. So if you've got a child with special needs, watch them. Do you see positive changes? If you give them the stuff, do you notice any positive changes? Don't ever believe for an instance. One of the keys, I'm talking about the true healing through faith. One of the things that you have to do if you want to help people heal. Now, I do this with people emotionally, and I'm learning to be better at doing with people physically, is you must never, ever, ever perceive them as sick. You must see them in your mind as whole. And you must rejoice and be thankful for and notice any little sign of improvement, and not allow anything else to discourage you, because faith is being able to hold on into your mind the picture of what you want, not what you have. It's holding on to the possibility with absolute firmness and not letting yourself get rattled by what's going on outside there. And I'd love to say more about that, but I need to also, get on to with just answering a few questions in the time I have left. And I'm going to go overtime because I started late. Okay, one thing about fiber products, all right, is anytime you take any kind of fiber or inulin, if you have bad bacteria in your gut, what will happen is you'll initially get gas and problems. That's a sign that you should probably either take cinnamon balance or berberine for a couple of days to start knocking down the unfriendly gut bacteria. And those will help to offset some of that. As for taking both of them at the same time, they didn't make it clear whether they were giving them the two products together. I've been separating them. I'll take the DTX first, before I eat anything, and then a little later I'll take the Rejuvenaid, because I don't know, intuitively I feel like detoxification should be like the ideal time to take detoxification products is when you first wake up in the morning before you eat anything, and again at night, as long as it's been 2 or 3 hours after you've eaten something. I think taking the Rejuvenaid during the day to help with your energy, at least that's the way it works for me. You can muscle test that or whatever, but I would. But if it works for you to put them together, then they're probably fine to be put together, and I don't think there would be anything wrong with doing that. Oh, thank you. So I overanalyze everything. You've helped me with this problem. Yeah, because that's what a lot of people, because the overanalysis comes from the fear you've been taught of making mistakes, the fear that you you're going to do something wrong because you're going to get punished if you get it wrong. You have to learn that you have to learn like a child. A child isn't afraid of making mistakes. When you're a little kid and you're learning to walk, you stumble and fall, you stumble and fall, you stumble and fall until you figure out how to get it right. But you do that fearlessly. You don't care that you don't get it right the first time. And as we get older, we develop this fear. Oh, I don't get it right the first time. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. We get analysis paralysis. And you have to learn to start just moving forward and understanding that you won't be perfect at anything the first time you try it. But if you just keep doing it, you get better and better at it. Someone says, remember, inform, it's important to build and fortify first before cleanse and detox. I always have to ease in so as not to go into a healing crisis, i.e. cleanse 1 to 2 days a week instead of 7 days a week. Like Stephen says, pay attention to your body. Yeah, that's true. Now, if you're in a more weakened state, like if you've got numerous health problems, you've got autoimmune disorders or anything like that, you probably do need to build first and then slowly detox. If you're a little more healthy, whatever, like in my situation, the detox is just fine. But you always have to balance detoxification and building. Someone says they like how they feel when they take Rejuvenaid on an empty stomach. I generally take it on an empty stomach too. I take it in the middle of the day, like when I'm sitting here working or whatever, and just drink some while I'm working, so I don't want to go ahead and eat. Okay, so everybody who's mentioned about the webinar, these are always recorded. They're broadcast live to YouTube, and when you have subscribed to attend these live, you're sent a follow-up email with a link to the replay, so you can watch the replay, or you can always go to my YouTube channel, Herbal Education, and you can watch any of these shows, any of these higher perspective webinars or so forth. I started this because I just wanted a way to just talk about things that were of interest to me without having to prepare some kind of big formal presentation, work on a PowerPoint, blah, blah, be able to just, spout out about whatever was on my mind and answer people's questions. So I appreciate the questions that you have, but I want to tell you, I have never, all of you who are joining me who are in Nature Sunshine, I have never been more excited about the prospects of Nature Sunshine for the future than I am right now. Never, ever in my life. I believe that we've got products and a direction that the company is going in, that if we start, using some of these basic tools, because I've always maintained, last week I was talking to Adriana, and she's like selling me, we need a simple place for people to start. We need a simple place for people to start. Everything's too complicated. You need a simple place. And I'm saying, stop. I said, stop. I went to Nature Sunshine in '98, 20 years ago, and said exactly to them what you're saying to me. Believe me, I've been preaching this for 20 years. You have to have a basic program as a place for people to start. It won't be perfect for everyone, but if it works for a large percentage of the population, and then people can learn how to tweak it, you're going to get far better results than if you have way too many products that overwhelm them. And I mentioned, when I joined Nature Sunshine in 1980, they had about 200 products, and it felt overwhelming. Now they have over 600, and it feels even more overwhelming. And then people are afraid to get started. But this is a fantastic place to get started with basically the Inform. On the building side, the protein powders, the nutrients in the cardio pack, and some of those other things to try to get your metabolism adjusted. And then this for detoxification and just improving your circulation and so forth. This is also just a fabulous place to get started for a lot of people. And the third leg of that to me is Chinese herbs. because Chinese herbs are the best way to get started with learning how to, find something that balances out the person based on their biological differences. So I believe that those three legs, the Inform, this new Purify 2.0, and the Chinese herbs, form a triad of products that are fabulous, innovative, cutting-edge products that people can run with, and we can train people to run with. And I'm very excited about working to help develop some educational materials to help support that process. And the thing that I was talking with Adrian is don't change it. Don't just stick with this for 5 years, okay? Because so people have time to gain momentum and understanding. She says, we're going to stick with this. So I said, okay, great. Then I'll help run with it, because I don't like it when, we start here, we did habit of health, and we did this, and then we did that, and then we did, just stay with one basic thing so people can learn that. Everybody has to start someplace. I had to start someplace. I didn't master the entire product line overnight, but I understood some basic principles, and I knew enough about those basic principles to get started. And I had enough trust in my own ability to observe and do things, which is what most people lack, okay? And what I keep trying to encourage people to get, that I was able to go forward and then start learning from there. So, I mean, one of the reasons why I love the Chinese herbal formulas, and I'm going a little overtime, but whatever, is because, look, I've bought Chinese herb products. There's a lot of Chinese herbal formulas you can buy in the United States. They do not muscle test well. And I think the reason why they don't muscle test well is one of the most polluted countries in the world is China. I've been over there. Horrible air pollution, horrible heavy metal toxicity, really, 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 really bad. A lot of the Chinese herbal products coming out of China are contaminated with pesticides, with heavy metals, and so forth. But we have a company where Linda Hammonds goes over to China and goes and finds the sources that are not contaminated and gets our herbs from places where we don't have heavy metals, we don't have pesticide residues, we don't. This is the only line of Chinese herbal products I know that I absolutely can trust their purity, as well as the fact that it's a very nice, simple line of Chinese herbal formulas following the Chinese philosophy, which to me really helped me understand how to work with people and balance people out. Because it isn't about treating diseases, it's about looking how the person is out of balance and giving them something to bring their body back into balance, which is how I think. So we have great starting places now. We have a great building program in Inform. We have a great detoxification program in Purify 2.0. We have a great product for giving specific support, product line for giving specific support to people who need to be tweaked in their balance. And we have a whole bunch of other products to help with specialized things, which people can learn later. If they learn those three things one at a time, okay, and I want to work on education, help support that, then people could start mastering this business and getting success with it. So I'm going to be working with this in trying to figure out the ways to promote this, push this, resource materials, because I want to really help push this thing forward for the future. Because Nature Sunshine, one of the things that I was talking about in the thing I went home office last week, and it's a big thing for me. I don't think Nature Sunshine tells its story well enough. I don't think people understand that even though Nature Sunshine doesn't say certified organic on the label, it's because certified organic products can contain heavy metals, pesticides, dirt, bug parts, bacteria, etc. Because all it means is that was grown without pesticides. It doesn't mean pesticides didn't float in from the field next door. Nature Sunshine goes and audits their vendors. They go out and they find the stuff that actually, and test to make sure it actually is pure. Not that just it's certified by the US government that it's pure, which, by the way, a heck of a lot of certified organic products are not. I saw a very good article on that, of how they ship these out and bribe some people to bring them back in and say they're certified organic when they're really commercially grown. And I'm sure a lot of the quote unquote organic produce at stores like Walmart and so forth is not organic at all. It's just ordinary stuff there's been a little greasing of palms and everything to get it labeled as organic in the government. I was very upset when the federal government took over the certified organic program. I said, well, there goes organic certification down the tubes. I will never trust it again, because I don't trust the government to do that. I was much happier when it was in the hands of private certification organizations. I'd be much happier if drug certification was in the hands of private certification things instead of the FDA, which is routinely managed by the very people that claim to be policing. So I just want to say that it's a fantastic company. That's why I've stuck with them for so long. That's why I've promoted them for so long, in spite of whatever problems they have. But one of the things that that I really enjoy about this is the fact that it's a company that I can trust. There's many reasons why I like Nature Sunshine, but mostly it's because a company I can trust their quality. My wife is very skeptical. She comes from Ukraine, where everything is corrupt, where everybody is bribed to do everything. And so she's very skeptical. So when I was telling her, she says, why do you get these products from Nature Sunshine? They're really expensive. Why don't you get, I said, because I know Nature Sunshine has quality. She said, they just say that. I said, no. So I took her on a tour of the plant. I took her up to Spanish Fork, had them taken a tour. She went through labs, whatever. She says, wow. She was like super impressed. Now she doesn't question me about Nature Sunshine quality anymore, because you can walk through the plant and you can see that. And I took a picture of me next to this sign, about how excellence, Nature Sunshine strives for excellence. And so we have these great products. But what we've lacked is a coherent place for people to get started. So people are overwhelmed. They don't know where to start. They feel like, I could never do this. I could blah, blah, blah. And I think now we have the possibility of making making things so that you we can have a consistent starting place to introduce people to the business, get them involved in this company. And then what's great is, unlike other companies that have those kind of basic offering products, we have a whole bunch of other products to back up, so that as people get more into this, they can learn more, they can get better, but they have to have a consistent place to start. And someone says, organic doesn't mean no pesticides, it means different pesticides. It's all about how you treat the soil. It does not check water or air or what you do after you grow it. So you can dry your herb at the side of the road and call it organic. Yeah, exactly. So Linda Hammond says she went to a place that was certified organic. It was dirty. There was no hot water in the bathroom and soap for employees to wash their hands. And she's sitting there watching the herbs go into the grinder, and there's bugs around and a spider coming down into the top of the grinder. And so you've got bugs, you've got dirt. That's not pure, okay? Don't trust labels. Trust your gut. Trust your instinct. Someone says, I recently bought organic greens and found a very large live fly crawling around the greens. Not opened yet. Wonder if the bug was organic too. Yeah, well, the bug is organic. Yes. Yeah, neighbor said that they were being assessed for organic certification, and they said it sounds pretty loose and easy to get around things and still be certified. That's exactly what happened. Before, you had independent companies. People would pay for the independent company to come in, and they would audit their farm, they would certify, they would look at things, and then they would certify it organic. And these were independent agencies that were doing this, independent things, that their reputation is based on that they are double checking to make sure that what the farms they're saying yes are organic meet their standards. Whereas when the government takes it over, it's all kind of loose, little teeny rules, blah, 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 and it's possible to grease some palms and still get things through. So, yeah, anyway. Okay, well, anyway, thanks everybody for staying with me this morning. Thank you for your patience while I had the technical difficulties getting on. I also want to make one thing besides the things that I've just talked about. One thing that Nature Sunshine does have that they're not going to lead with, but I want to talk about a lot, and what I have my classes in the evening on emotional healing work is the other principle of helping to heal the mind and emotions. Because I think besides the purification, besides the building and giving the specific herbs to balance the body, I think that a person's mental and emotional state is the other critical leg to this whole process. Now, Nature Sunshine has some flower essence blends that help them create. They have some essential oils to do this, but that's the other part of this that's a very basic fundamental part of this. My Fundamentals of Natural Healing, part 4, module 4, we'll talk about working on the mental and emotional healing health more from a product standpoint, from actually using herbs and supplements and so forth to help with depression, anxiety, and so on and so forth. That is only $75. It's 8 lessons. So it starts Thursday. So if you'd like to be part of that, you can sign up for that. You can get all of the modules for $250. We've already completed 3 of them. And I also want to mention that my emotional healing class is completely free. It is online at YouTube. You can go to our treelite.com website, TREEELITE.com website, and you can get the links. I'll soon be putting up for the start of module 4 of that class, but that's all free. You can go to my YouTube channel and go through the whole list of those webinars and learn all about doing the mental, emotional, spiritual healing aspect of this work. And I plan to do a lot more with this because it's very important to me. And we have some great new charts. If any of you haven't seen them, I've got 2 beautiful emotional healing charts, one on aromatherapy for emotional healing, the other one on flower essences and affirmations for emotional healing. They're very nice tools, and we look to be coming out with more. We are, because I haven't had to discontinue all my NSP specific materials, we've been struggling financially. So anything you can do, signing up for a class, buying some of our charts, or whatever, will help us tremendously. So also consider being part of our member program, because next year I'm going to devote the member program to teaching, to laying out a bunch of materials to help support teaching the basics to new people. And so that'll be great. Nature's Institute is separate from my company. I will be moving some of the courses and things that I've had for Nature Sunshine over to Nature's Institute later. But that is still coming. The discounts on the chart, we're past giving the discounts on the chart. We gave a discount for pre-order, but they're still better. And you do get a discount if you're a member. I think it's 10% off if you're a member of our member program. Go to StephenHorne.com to learn about the member program. We're trying to move everything to StephenHorne.com so that you'll be able to access everything from StephenHorne.com, and we won't have 3 websites anymore. But it's a lot of work to do when there's only 2 of us. So please be patient. And thank you for supporting me. Thank you, everybody who joined me today. And we'll look forward to seeing you again. I do these broadcasts every other week. So look forward to the next one. Okay, bye.